everybody. Do Not Take It Seriously here today on the Burns Redo. We are reviewing M, which you already know, by Fritz Lang, which was done in 1931. This is this is an amazing movie. I had never seen this movie before. Greg suggested it, Greg Arganda, and I I was almost speechless after this movie. I actually had to write down what I wanted to say because it took me so long to put everything in my mind into words. So I had kind of a lot to say. This is an intriguing journey into the mind of a psychotic child murderer, which was kind of hard for me to watch since I have kids. It blends terror, complexity, and malignity into one amazing motion picture. The film itself captures the chaos of the town just perfectly. It's almost like M is more about the results of a serial killer than the actual serial killer. Never in the film do we directly witness a murder. Everything that's violent is implied, which makes it almost scarier to me in a sense, because we're not seeing what the killer's doing, obviously, but your mind and your imagination can wander, and that can really screw with your head. I think this method of filmmaking makes the movie's impact even greater than what it would be if they didn't do that. With a creative perspective through a third-person point of view, the filmmakers repeatedly give us examples of a solid structure through the characters and the occurrences. I was really overwhelmed by the power of the performances, the staging of the scenes, the locations, the power that the simple story had with such complex circumstances. I mean, as you can tell, it kind of blew my mind a bit. This is why I had to write it down. I have so much I have to say. I know that this is one of the best films ever to come out of Germany. I mean, I've heard that from people, I've read that, and now that I've watched it, I agree with that. It's a powerful statement about protecting your children if you're looking at it in a message movie point of view. But in reality, it's a piece of cinematic heaven. It really is. I mean, just the way that it's shot. Thrillers today, I swear, only wish they could draw a viewer into the mystery elements and have such unconventionality of the times. They don't do that. Boiling down to it, obviously, M is about a child killer, the legendary character actor Peter Lorre, which I believe this was his first major role, who snatches children when their parents don't watch, which is another reason why I always know where my children are. Lang puts the camera in unusual places at times, and I thought one place was kind of funny because it was up the inspector's leg while he was talking on the phone, the police inspector, and he adds for good measure shades of dark and gray in many of the night scenes. And I had to look this up because I was really curious about this, but when he puts the dark and the gray in the night scenes, it's a precursor to film noir. And he later became an important director in the 40s and 50s because of the way that he filmed and different things that he did throughout the movie. And it's just, it's an amazing movie. You have to watch this movie. On top of this, there's a very modern sense of style in the editing. A couple places I remember, and this is a spoiler, so if you haven't watched it and you don't want to know, don't listen to the rest of this review. One of the editing styles that kind of surprised me is where the cops, I think it was the cops, they were having an argument about the investigation, and two of them get in a shouting match. And we actually get to see the close-ups of their faces, the back and forth close-ups, and you don't see that very much. I mean, the way that it was filmed, you don't see it because there were short looks, basically. And it's done so quick and with such intensity that it's not done now. I don't know, maybe if it was just because it was black and white, or maybe I was just so into the film at that point, but it really struck me that that was an amazing moment, cinematically speaking, for the film. There's also the hunt scene for Laurie, Peter Lorre, where they're digging in the house and Lang cuts around constantly. And it heightens the tension between what are the predators, which would be the criminals who also gang up together basically to take this murderer down because they're afraid of what's happening in the city, and the prey, which is Peter Lorre, obviously the child murderer, until it's almost like too much to take. Like you're sitting on the edge of your seat and you're so into the movie. And I was actually sitting there, I didn't realize it, I was sitting there and I was holding my arm like this the whole time, and I was gripping my arm so hard I almost left a bruise on my arm because I was so into the movie. And it's great. It is really great the way that it was shot. But the disturbing aspects of the story obviously are the child abductions and the murders, which, like I said, have an effect on me because I have 2 kids. But they've kind of become the benchmark in a lot of thrillers today. And the cop is usually the subject, and the killer is left kind of more in the shadows. You don't know who it is till the end. And it's just cat and mouse, back and forth. And that style is not what's happening here. What's happening here is just you get to know the character, you get to know the murderer, and it makes it harder, I think, at the end. When you get to the final scene where Peter Lorre he's being interrogated and he's giving his "I can't help it" speech, and it becomes something that's so poetic, yet it's tragic, and it's frightening at the same time. It's like it scared me because you see him develop as a character, and you see everything about him, and then you realize, yes, he is the murderer. But the way they filmed it, they used lighting. Like he says, "I can't help it, but can't you see I can't help it," and he falls on his knees, and they have the direct lighting over the top of him, and you can see the sweat on his brow. You feel when he grabs his face, you're almost the character if you get into it as much as I did. And it's amazing. It's like it raised the hair on my neck because it's such a great movie. And I know I'm gushing about this movie, but seriously, I cannot say enough about this film. This is